Hi everyone, this is Startup Bright and we're here to talk all things startups related. This is the time and place where founders share their ideas, explain their products and services, introduce their teams, and talk about their problems and goals. So hi everyone, we have Ricky with us today, and he's gonna present to us his health chatbot startup, right?
Yep.
I met with Ricky at Kodu Startups event about a week ago, maybe? Right?
Yeah. It was here at the WeWork building as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was sitting on the panel as technical advisor, and then Ricky approached me and told me a little bit more about his startup, and we decided to do an interview with him on Startup Bright.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick, for inviting me for this opportunity. So hi, everyone. My name is Ricky. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Proveo Health. And I want to kind of have everybody think back to the last time that we were all at our doctor's office and try and remember all the healthcare advice that your doctor tried to tell you. It's probably going to be a little bit fuzzy because, as a matter of fact, 75% of us forget doctor's recommendations within just 2 weeks of that initial visit. And this has significant repercussions on all of us, both individually and collectively. It's been linked that any individual who develops a chronic illness, such as diabetes or COPD and heart failure, may have a 20% decrease in their future income due to lost work days and medical bills adding up. And collectively as a whole, we are spending over $700 billion a year just on preventable medical expenses and medical treatments that could be prevented had we just followed our doctor's orders, right? And so my co-founder and I created Proveo Health to make a change. And we have developed an AI chatbot, and we've named it Iris.
Nice.
And Iris is basically your personalized medical expert, and Iris will reach out to you routinely and make sure that you're on track with your doctor's recommendations, make sure that you're doing well. And you can even ask Iris any questions regarding medications or even related health conditions of you and your family. And the benefit of Iris is that Iris is 100% automated, so it can respond instantaneously and is available anytime, anywhere, right? And because, again, it's fully autonomous, it can do this with millions of people simultaneously. So we're helping a huge population here. Unlike searching for Google and WebMD, which we all eventually do when it's too late, Iris has conversational artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities that allow it to differentiate between you, me, and a family member so that we get unique medical advice that applies to us uniquely. So it's not a generic searching the web for medical information. And so a little bit about our business model. We are a B2B annual subscription business, and we are looking for healthcare companies that are currently operating mobile apps or patient portals that their patient population is currently using. And what we'll do is we'll white label and integrate our platform on the back end so that the existing users can have access to our platform. This business model really allows us to lower our cost of user acquisition and tap into the existing population that's currently already using mobile health services. And for our clients, this means a reduced workflow disruption so that it's seamlessly integrated. They don't have to teach their staff and their administrators new technology, a new platform. And even for our patient and our end users, they don't have to relearn and re-download a new application or learn to use something new all over again. It's all integrated into the same platform that they were using before. So we're currently looking for investment. We're seeking a $1 million investment, a seed investment, in exchange for equity and convertible notes. And this will give us a 18-month runway that will help us build our software development team and hire a head of sales and marketing, build a sales team around that, and really expand a lot of our pipeline products as well. Currently, we are in beta test, and we have tested our platform successfully with a closed set of patients to gather the data, to train our conversational AI, and we're ready to go to the market for a full launch. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums
That pretty
up.
much covers it, right?
Yeah, sums up where we are and what Proveo Health is all about. So I'm happy to share all that with you.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So you can establish yourself as a expert in the area. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I was a pharmacist in the health insurance industry, and in my previous two positions at medical groups and at specialty pharmacies, I was actually developing a lot of these protocols that we were trying to manually reach out to the patients that we needed to. For example, we had a diabetes population of several 10,000 or 100,000 diabetics that we needed to call up one by one, right? Have a long conversation with to make sure that they're on track, that they're not going to the ER, that they're not letting their diseases progress. And so this was a very time-consuming process. And with a lot of things in healthcare, we moved very slowly, and there weren't enough resources to really cover the whole population. So this was not a sustainable approach that a lot of companies are using today. And so that's really where the idea of Proveo Health started.
Okay, and that covers the idea, and that you worked with in the industry, so you're familiar with the industry and the needs. And how do you have a team with you? Who is with you?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I launched Proveo Health. My co-founder, William, is a software developer and a serial entrepreneur himself. Before joining Proveo Health, he was the CTO of another digital health startup, more in consulting healthcare services. And he has managed to start and sell companies in the gaming industry and online merchandising industry as well before coming to Proveo Health. So he's got about 15 to 20 years experience dealing with startups. And immediately before I met William, he had been successful in implementing some digital solutions for large healthcare companies like Aetna and Humana, a couple of these large stakeholders.
So he's also been in this industry.
Yeah. So it was almost a perfect match, because it was a challenge to find software developers and technical co-founders who appreciated, kind of had the same passion, the same drive, and appreciate the need for healthcare to change in the direction that we wanted to. And so again, I was very quick to share my ideas with William, and we connected instantly with that.
Do you have developers, or is just William that is working on the
Yeah,
project?
so interesting question. Again, just the way that things panned out, with William's projects in the past, he's been using the same team of developers for over 10 years. And so we basically tapped into that resource, and Proveo Health was able to contract some of those developers and use that team to get us started on our product as well.
Okay, so you have running product, and you said that you already are doing some customer user testing in the field.
Right.
How is it? How is the outcome? Do you receive positive feedback? How many people do you test?
So we're testing it with a population of roughly 50 people.
Okay.
Not all the feedback initially was positive, as we didn't want all of it to be positive, because we needed some constructive feedback on how to improve our platform as well. And so in the beginning, it was really to smooth out the rough edges for our chatbot to be able to query the correct response, to recognize what the users were asking, right? Because when you start with nothing, it kind of searches all over the place. So we were able to fine-tune that with a whole bunch of questions, train that into our algorithms repetitively, and soon we were very happy with the results of that. But on top of just getting the data, the conversational data, and really training the user experience, we were able to get some feedback as to what the users were really looking for in something like this, right? So are they looking for the chatbot to reach out to them more often? Are they looking for the a certain type of questions in one subject category or another? So we were able to kind of figure that out as well. And you'd be surprised that a lot of 80% of the questions actually fall into something like 10 or 15% of what we've built the capacity for. Which is probably not surprising, but it's nevertheless.
Yeah, it's usually always 20-80 rule.
Right,
applies
exactly.
in pretty much everywhere.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Are you? What do you do to make sure that you're not averaging out the results and the questions that you receive? Because there will always be outliers that ask questions that have never been asked, and when you have an AI running on the back end, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation that you have to feed it with data before it starts giving reasonable results, but you cannot get reasonable results and engage people, right? They say, oh, this is not working. How do you get over that hurdle of educating the AI enough to be good for your users?
Yeah, so a lot of that comes with designing the process so that it's user-friendly and the experience is smooth, right? So what we saw with a lot of existing chatbots or conversational AI services is that if you ask it something that it doesn't recognize, it will either shoot you an error message or it will ask you to repeat your question over and over again. So you could potentially be asking it 100 times and still get nowhere, right? So our workaround around that problem is that if we don't recognize the question that the user poses, we will keep the data for future training. But in order to troubleshoot and bypass that, we actually formed a decision tree to help the user select the pathway that they want to go.
Okay.
And so potentially in the very beginning, we could be seeing a lot more instances of this happening. But the idea is that later on down, as we collect more of those troublesome or confusing questions, that we'll soon get much better, and the instances of that happening will decrease over time.
Okay. And do you need to be compliant with any regulations?
Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare is crazy on regulations, and as it should be, right? We take patient privacy data and also medical accuracy very seriously. So this was actually one of the biggest challenges that we had initially in building the conversational AI, is that there are a lot of open source NLP platforms out there, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, they all have them. But we decided to go with our own proprietary build from the start, from scratch, so that everything is a closed loop and we're not sharing any of our conversational data with any of these large companies. We house it all securely in our own servers, and we train with the data that we have. So that makes it HIPAA compliant, more than HIPAA compliant in many cases, exceeding that standard, and it will minimize the risk of any data and security breaches in the future, where if a third party is not doing their due diligence on security and our data is housed there, we may be at risk as well. So we want to fully control all of that.
Yeah, it's always kind of tricky with applications that deal with health and because, like, for example, I don't know if you've heard about this lady in China that tried to IV
no, I have not heard about that.
yeah, fruit juice
wow, okay.
straight in her veins, and they managed to save her. But nowadays it's not, I don't think the problem is in collecting data.
Right.
The problem would be who gets the data, because if the doctor gets the data of sensors that you wear, it's one thing. It's a trained eye, and the doctor can give you the proper feedback. But if the data comes directly to you and you don't have training, you don't have education to read the data, you may be thinking that
Yeah, absolutely.
it's very easy, I can do it myself, I can IV myself, why not, right? Go YouTube and you'll probably find a way to do it.
Right, right.
So how do you deal with these kind of situations where you have to be compliant on one side, you also have to protect yourself against cases like that, because again you're giving data directly into the customer hands.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of this, for example, as a practicing pharmacist, if you offer a wrong recommendation, either on purpose or not, and something bad happens to the patient, then the pharmacist is responsible. So I think that's a very excellent question. So the way that we have gone about dealing with these issues is that all of the content and the information that the end user receives is verified through sources and vendors that produce the content. For example, our drug database is licensed from one of the largest national vendors in the country, and it's 100% verified. All the large hospitals use it. All the doctors use it. I believe sources like Google and WebMD pull from the same databases. So, in terms of concrete medical knowledge, we want to make sure that we're getting the best.
Yeah.
Now,
so you're kind of offloading the responsibility. It doesn't
Right.
stay with you, but you're using.
Well, we don't want to offload the responsibility to the large vendors.
Yeah.
We're ensuring that we're providing the best that is feasible currently out there, and if there are more vendors out there that produce better quality content, then we will definitely use those. In addition to that, I think a lot of mobile health and digital health services are also running into this issue where are you giving healthcare advice, or are you superseding what the doctor's role is, right? And in our case, we are not there to replace what the doctor is telling you to do. We're there to reinforce that and to supplement that. So we don't have any kind of futuristic plan to replace medical professionals. We still recognize the need for that, absolutely, but it's those times when the medical professionals are so tied up with their work that they don't have the time to remind everybody, we're here to jump in. And so, in our kind of disclaimers and our privacy practices and terms of conditions, we do outline that very clearly for our users to understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And using AI, do you have kind of check and balances system that eventually can help you understand how a specific decision or advice was made through the system? Because if anything happens, an accident would happen, right? Yeah. Do you have a way to track down how the decision was made and why that advice was given to the customer? Yeah,
so that's the same thing that we're currently troubleshooting, the same process that we use to troubleshoot any of our bugs. Let's say if I'm using, again, I'll use the drug database because it's a very linear example. If I type in a question about amoxicillin or any drug out there, and it doesn't return me the right answer, we have a way of tracking exactly how it got that answer and why it got the wrong answer. Yeah. And that's how we go about fixing our bugs.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Do you
no,
track
absolutely.
everything?
Yeah, that's absolutely necessary. The software developers are very diligent about that. And there's no way that we caught 100% of all the errors out there, but when they do arise, there's processes in place that we want to make sure that we continuously improve that.
I see.
Yeah.
Also, I read, I think it was in your pitch deck, that you will allow customers to delete their data.
Yes.
if they don't want the data to be kept in your systems. But that goes back to the question that I asked. For example, if I am your customer and you have my history and something bad happened to me, right, and I delete my record, right? You have no proof of giving me the right or wrong, I don't know, advices, right? So
Right.
allowing me to delete is a little bit strange to me. I think you would have to keep records of all decisions and all advices that you have given your customers. So I may not
Yeah.
like it as a user of your system, but I don't think you should delete anything.
Right,
and
right.
keep.
No, that's a fair point, and we're kind of debating the path between allowing the users to customize what they have in their history, almost in a way that, you know, YouTube, right? There's a watch history. You can delete it on the server. On the back end, we still have all the de-identified information that tracks all of the histories and all of the conversations and all of the data that we collect is de-identified, so that we don't know your identity, but we still know the user's actions.
Yeah.
And so
that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
so we're
makes
definitely, you know, debating the perfect way to proceed.
Yeah.
And one of the most viable ones is most likely to keep that side and to allow the users, so that way they feel that they have the power to control kind of how they're profiled in our platform per se, right? So that if they delete their history, then going forward, their medical conditions and their medical kind of profile is not affecting how the chatbot approaches them.
I see.
Yeah.
You said that you have product that is being out in the field tested by a small group of users. Why do you need funding? Why not grow this yourself? You already developed you did the hard part.
Right. So I think the primary objective of our funding is to really expand our operations, and we know that, you know, healthcare tends to have longer sales cycles, right? Healthcare tends to have higher higher barriers to entry compared to other industries, and so that funding is really to kind of insulate those risks and make sure that we stay in the game for as long as we can, so that we build enough traction to gain that initial momentum to build, you know, to build a scalable a business going forward. And also, a lot of our business model really depends on gaining kind of access and networks to healthcare companies or other related companies that we might not currently have, to kind of expand our market potential. And that can definitely, you know, help as well.
Okay. And what is your marketing strategy to get customers? Because you said that it's a B2B solution, so you're looking for the big names to start using your product. What is your strategy? How are you going to approach these customers?
So right now we are pretty much approaching each of these customers one by one, and my co-founder and I are currently the main sales force and going out there and you know, trying to secure meetings and demo our product out. But another way that we really want to ensure that we get our name out there is that we want to be a part of these ecosystems and marketplaces that house a lot of the upcoming digital health services. As an example, we have employer health solutions that create marketplaces for people to kind of pick and choose the package that they want, right? And we want to be included in those networks so that we get more exposure and people can see, you know, if I want a conversational platform, this is the one that I want. If I want, you know, a Fitbit for my employees, this is the company that I want. And in addition to that, a lot of EMRs like Epic and Cerner are also building these app developer networks so that hospital systems and you know, their clients can gain access to the services as well.
I see.
So, you know, that the first part is really to expand our exposure and introduce our services to medical professionals so that they can have a sort of a clinical buy-in, if you will, to that, this thing will work for my patients, so I want my organizations to use these.
And how big of a market we're talking about here, just to give us a perspective?
Yeah, so high level, we're starting out with the commercially insured market because of lower barriers to entry. And roughly there are 120 million patients out there that are commercially insured, and they are currently using one or more mobile health services currently available on the market today. So with our price point, we're looking at about a $1.1 billion market. And to kind of tap into that, initially we feel that we can get about a $20 to $25 million revenue stream in the first 3 years. And since it's
what are the profit margins?
At the 20 million mark, we're looking at between 70 to 75% profit margins, because it's a SaaS and B2B model, so higher profit margins. Over a 5-year time, our goal is to grow this to a $100 million company and push the profit margins past 80 to the 85% range.
I see. We talk about a little bit about your marketing strategy and how big the market is. I guess the next step would be, how do you support your customers?
Right.
Can you, is this going to be on your side, or the service providers are going to do that? How do you plan?
Yeah, so since we're implementing our platform, it's a white label integration into an existing mobile app or an online patient portal, we will let all of the data and the information that we collect from the end users, we let all the data flow to our clients, and collaboratively we own the data. So we don't want to shut our clients out of the data at all, because it's their users, their patients, they own the data, right? We're going to be using this data to continuously train and improve our engines.
This is going to be cross providers, like if you have, if you white label your solution for provider A and for provider B.
No. So we have separate bills for every individual client, so that we keep all the compartments separate. For sure. But collectively, we're still going to be extracting the same data that comes out of each client, right? But all the clients are not going to get access to the entire world, because there could be some cross again, privacy issues, HIPAA, and not to mention that certain clients would probably not appreciate if they, if their users were and their patients were generating data for their competitors, let's say, right? So there could be some conflict there. So we want to keep them separate, but the data still flows through us, and we have access to that. We're sharing all of that with our clients, so that everybody benefits at the end. And not only can we use the data to improve our systems and our platforms for the end users, but they can also use this for analytics if they, let's say, if they want to initiate a new clinical program. They want target some measles outbreaks in the country in certain area codes, they could do that, right? Because the data is coming in and they know exactly who's getting affected. Yeah.
Well, the reason for my question was to train the AI. More data is always better for the AI, but it definitely makes sense to keep everything isolated, because you don't want to get into other issues, regulatory or privacy issues.
Right. And I will add that a part of our platform for our clients, a service that we provide for our clients, is that we give them full control as well of the content that they want to push out. So let's say today they have their own proprietary, if Kaiser has a proprietary approach to dealing with diabetes patients, they can customize their own program using our platform and push that out to all of their users, so that only Kaiser patients get that benefit. And we are thinking about other forms of other business models where we could maybe form a marketplace of the content itself in collaboration with our clients. That could be a possibility, because collectively, as a country and as a society, we can benefit if all the content was shared amongst the best of the best, right? Yeah.
Do you have competitors?
Definitely.
Who
Who doesn't?
Well, if you have competitors, it means it's an interesting place to be, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have competitors, you should ask yourself,
Right,
what am I
right.
doing here, right?
Yeah. So our competitors, I would classify them into two groups. The first group are the more or less the legacy large healthcare giants, right? I mentioned WebMD as one of them. Mayo Clinic has a lot of these content services. So these legacy healthcare companies generally produce a whole lot of content, and it'll be hard to match their level, the amount of content that they're producing. But the problem is that the content's not really going anywhere. It's static. It's either on a web page or it's on an app that doesn't really interact with anybody, and the patients don't get to it. So it's wasted content, really. So those are our number one type of competitors, because we want to be operating at their level of content, but we also want this content to be reaching and engaging the people who need to use this, right? And it's personalized for our patients. It's unique and it's alive. The second group of our competitors are the oncoming startups in digital health that are producing conversational platforms, but they're not very versatile. An example is Conversa Health, Giant. They're building wonderful chatbots, but they're not very scalable in the sense that they offer more or less a one-size-fits-all solution. And so we all know that healthcare is not one-size-fits-all, and even within institutions, like one hospital to another hospital follow different protocols for treating the exact same thing. So our platform allows these clients to basically tailor fit whatever they want in terms of their clinical content to each one of their patient populations. And so it basically allows eventually a true customization and a true 100% personalized to any different type of individual, because we give our clients the freedom to create almost an unlimited number of these programs.
Yeah, I guess I want to ask you, you already said you were looking for $1 million of investment. What are you ready to give the investors back for this $1 million of investment?
So we're looking at valuation between 20 to 25% equity in that range for the $1 million in equity or convertible notes. And we have kind of briefed over several exit strategies that
I was going to ask you, what is your exit strategy?
Yeah, and obviously, our business plan affords us the opportunity to have high growth and high profits from the very outset. We're not, we're not in the business of data mining and finding a way to monetize that later on, right? We want to be very aggressive from the outset. And so the obvious exit would be mergers and acquisitions in the healthcare industry. Activity has been high in the last few years. They're only going to continue to grow into the future. There's easily a couple hundred healthcare mergers every single year. And in digital health, it's between 1 to 200 companies every year that get bought out by larger companies, because it's a huge market. There are a lot of large companies that have the cash flow to buy up these new companies, whether they're competitors or they're partners, some of our clients maybe, who aren't in the business of creating new technologies, will just buy up a company, right?
Right.
But in addition to that, we have long-term strategies on the table because of the high growth and sustainable scalability that we can generate significant returns over the long term, maybe through future fundraising rounds or future IPOs even on the table is a possibility as well.
Yeah, good. So I always ask at the end of the interviews my guests to tell us anything like a funny story or even embarrassing stories about that happened to you or your co-founder while you were developing this application. Do you have anything like that to share with us?
Well, I would say when we actually, in the very beginning from the initial prototype, we did almost switch the stack, if you will, because we were initially we built it on a more Java based platform, so that
Of all platforms, you pick Java?
right. And well, this
Wouldn't
was
be my first choice.
no. So well, I'm not a technology guy. I guess that's an embarrassing story for me, right? So, you know, I'm clinical and business, right? So I actually tried to learn coding to get a general sense of it, because I felt like, you know, someday I'm gonna need it, right?
Yeah.
But it was taking too long. You know, I signed up for the online free courses and this and that to get my hands wet, right? But it was taking too long, and so I was like, you know, I just need to go out and find a technical co-founder. I'll probably learn faster that way.
Yeah.
But the reason why there was Java is because I approached some consultants and some, you know, people who were just freelancing on the side giving me advice, who was basically picking the aesthetics and the looks first, so they can build something that looks good to impress people. Until I met my co-founder, you know, of course he was like, no, like, you know, we're back-ending and white labeling this thing. We don't need any of that stuff right now. So we switched it back over to, I think it's now a Python-based a back-end, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable, you know, and it's normal if you don't have, even if you have technical background, to pick something that you like, right?
Right.
And people don't make always the best decisions when it comes to technologies. Software development is fashion industry.
It could be that the 5 or 10 developers that I found were all Java developers.
Yeah, most
right?
likely.
Who knows?
Yeah, so. Well, I want to thank you for being on Startup Bright.
Thank you.
And I hope we meet again. Probably we can follow up in 6 months and see where we are.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you
very
for giving
much.
me the chance.
Thanks.